Okay. Today I wanted to discuss something. I think I heard Jeff from Cutlery Lovers saying something about this at one time. He had a video that was sort of along these lines. I don't know entirely. But is the Second Amendment for everyone? I was interacting with the Second Amendment Foundation on Facebook, and they were talking about the top gun stories of the day. One of the gun stories of the day is New York bans felons from owning black powder guns. Now, the black powder is the old school gun from the revolutionary times where you had to take the powder, put the powder in, put the ball in, single shot muzzle loaders. That's an example of a black powder weapon. There are other guns that were Civil War era, around that time, that are black powder. You can tell a black powder gun because if you're watching a movie about the 1800s, or if you're watching a documentary on the History Channel and you have a historian fucking around with an old gun, you can tell it's a black powder gun because when you fire the gun, all the fucking smoke comes out. Now, they're talking about convicted felons not being able to own black powder guns in New York State. Well, as far as I was concerned, I didn't think convicted felons were allowed to own guns, period. I heard a wild rumor a while ago that some states actually allow convicted felons to bear arms 10 years after their last conviction. So if you have a conviction for a felony and you go 10 years without getting in trouble, a couple of these states will give you a gun. I don't know which states they are, and that's a rumor, so I don't want to repeat it. And if you can prove that rumor, please tell me about it. I'll give you a little bit of credit. I'll write your name in the bubble or some shit. But and this got me thinking. First of all, black powder guns are very, very, very old school primitive guns. Okay, you're probably gonna see a crime committed with a medieval battle axe before you see a crime committed with a black powder gun. It will be the rarest thing in the world. There are cops on duty for 35 years that never see black powder guns used to make crime. But the purpose is the Second Amendment is not for everyone. I also mentioned in this Second Amendment Foundation discussion that domestic abusers. New York State passed a law last year, keeping in mind New York State's new governor is not the friendliest gun candidate. Okay? I don't know if he owns guns himself. I don't know. I don't talk to him, but he's not that friendly with the gun community. Now, last year our governor signed a law saying someone convicted of domestic violence, even misdemeanor domestic violence, cannot bear arms. That doesn't mean your ex-girlfriend called and said that you called her a bitch. That means you were convicted in court of domestic violence. You actually went to court and were convicted. The state has proved its case. Due process, okay? The Sixth Amendment, in order for the state, whether the state is the village, the state, the federal government, in order for the government to take away your rights or your liberty, like if they imprison you, they have to prove their case against you. You don't prove your case, they prove their case. Okay? Like you're charged with a crime. You legally don't have to say one word. You can literally sit there like this with your hands folded and not say one word. They have to prove you guilty. That's why that whole bullshit on cops about all suspects are innocent until proven guilty. You are innocent until proven guilty. Okay? Well, you've already gone to court. You've either pled guilty or were convicted of domestic violence. You cannot bear arms in New York State. Now, most of my professors were in the field. Detectives, troopers, attorneys, psychologists, okay? the professors that I studied under, they really did the field that they taught in real life. It wasn't like they read this shit in a fucking book and said, this is nice. They actually taught what they learned in the field. And many of my professors, or one professor in particular, the Virginia State Trooper, was deathly afraid of domestic violence. The thing most feared by officers is the traffic stop. Because when you pull a guy over on the highway in the middle of the night for a tail light or some shit, he doesn't know if you want to give him a ticket for the tail light or if you found out he killed somebody last week. When you have a cop, the cop says, give me your license and registration. If you have an outstanding warrant for mass murder, the cop is going to find that out. So the most feared thing in the cops' world is a simple pullover. And cops are also killed by cars driving by the highway and running the fuck over. The second thing most feared in the cops' world is the domestic violence. I've been in the courts. I've seen the cases. Okay? There is no one in this world more violent than a domestic abuser. No one. Okay? People that commit domestic violence are willing to hurt friends, relatives, intimate partners, okay? So God knows what the fuck they're gonna do when you piss them off. Okay? And there have been reports of cops being attacked by the victim. There have been cops that were, I heard of a cop had his head fucking bashed in with a lamp in a domestic dispute. Okay? You have no comprehension how far domestic abusers will go. I can't tell you how violent they are. It's about control and shit, okay? And they have people my age that beat the shit out of their elderly parents. They have people 12 and 13 throwing their grandmothers down a flight of stairs. Kids beat up grandparents. Kids beat up little siblings. I'm going to show you something. When a cop is taking a domestic violence complaint, see this wall? Okay, I got the gun on me. See the gun? Okay, and the gun is hot. That's why I got it in holster. Okay? I'm a cop. I'm in a domestic situation. Victim standing in front of me. Yes? Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Okay. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Okay. You see that? The finger is on the mechanism. That way I can pull the gun out to defend myself if I have to. But most likely because I don't want anyone to wrest it away from me. And I'm also against the wall because I don't want anyone flanking me. My partner might be arresting the defendant and 3 other officers are arresting the defendant, but I don't know if anybody else is in the house. I don't know if someone's going to come flying out of a fucking room. So I'm going to be like this. And if possible, if there's another officer free, I'm going to have him or her standing here or here. Okay? If you're ever outside and if domestic violence is handled on the inside, they'll take you to the inside of the house. But if you have an incident that happens at a restaurant between a boyfriend and a girlfriend, if you have an incident that happens in the street. I one time saw one of those reality cop shows. There was a female officer taking a statement and she was standing in the middle of the street like that. If you ever see an officer standing like that, like I was just standing a minute ago, 2 things. Number 1, you have 2 choices. This fucking clock always fucking rings when I do a video. You can either A, stay as far away from the cop as possible, or B, you can get on the phone, dial 911, and tell a dispatcher that you think the officer might need more help. And if you have 1 cop with 5 people, I would call it in to get more help to the officer. Because odds are the officer can't just stop what they're doing to go radio for help. Okay? Domestic violence is crazy. There have been times where victims have actually said, you know, fuck this shit, and tried to grab the gun from the cop to shoot their abuser. It happens, okay? So people that are domestic abusers are not going to be able to bear arms. Juvenile files. There is a false belief that your juvenile file is sealed. It is not. Okay? When I went for my license here in New York, I had to give the detective written permission to open my juvenile record. I don't have a record, so I was clean. I was cool about it. The point is this: juveniles commit some really violent fucking crimes. Okay? So that's why they're starting to demand your juvenile file be handed over. So they can ask for your juvenile file from you, and you give them written permission, or if you are the suspect of a crime, they'll ask a judge. So if you have a 19-year-old man on trial for rape, the prosecutor will say, Your Honor, he's 19, he's charged with rape. I want to open his juvenile file to see if he was adjudicated for sexual assault 6 years ago when he was 13. So your juvenile file is sealed, but the judge has the key. Okay? And you want to enroll, you want to enlist in the military, you want to work as a cop, you want to get a license to own a gun or carry a gun, stuff like that. Your juvenile file can be opened for that reason, because they don't want violent juveniles. Okay, so that's the domestic abusive aspect, convicted felon aspect. Mentally ill. Veterans have post-traumatic stress disorder. Post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, means you saw something horrific. For instance, in a veteran's case, he might have seen his best friend get killed in combat. In a rape victim's case, they had a sexual assault happen on their body. PTSD means you witnessed an event that was traumatic, and it was most likely not your fault, but you are traumatized by it. Now, you cannot deny someone with PTSD the right to bear arms, because 99 times out of 100, whatever happened to them, not happened by them, okay? They were the victim of it. Okay, if you got a veteran with PTSD who was suicidal, that's a different story. But if someone has a traumatic event happen in their life that was not their fault, you cannot take their rights away. So when they say the mentally ill, and if you look at the Heller versus DC, Justice Scalia does say we are not going to challenge long-standing laws about convicted felons, mentally ill, suicidal, stuff like that, owning arms. Okay? If someone with mental illness is banned from owning a gun, they are banned from owning a gun because they are dangerous. Their mental illness has made them dangerous to the community. And a very large majority of mentally ill people are not dangerous. Okay? Another aspect of it. Suicide. Someone that has attempted suicide may not bear arms, because the point is, if I give them a fucking gun, are they going to kill themselves? We don't know this. So if you are documented to have attempted suicide, and yes, they can open up your psychiatric file with your permission. Britney Spears cannot own a gun, because Britney Spears was detained in a mental institution against her will, and it is believed, I wasn't there, but it is believed that she was ready to commit suicide that night in question, that crazy night where she had all the fucking, yeah. Okay? So, if you are disallowed from owning a gun because of mental illness, ask for an explanation. Alright? Because they might have, it might be your fault, it might not be your fault, you never know. Also, drunk driving. 3 DWIs is a felony. But if you have 2 DWIs, someone might say to you, listen, you're 2/3 a convicted felon anyway, and if you're stupid enough to abuse a car while drunk, you're stupid enough to abuse a gun while drunk. But they have to prove their case to you. 6th Amendment. They have to prove their point. You are dangerous and you cannot practice the 2nd Amendment. They must prove their case against you. People with extensive criminal records. Okay? If you have a guy with 6 or 7 misdemeanors, convictions, he tries to buy a gun, they can legally tell him no. Because he's a criminal. He isn't convicted of a felony yet, but he is a criminal. Let me get the phone for 1 minute, please. You're okay though? Paul Bergman called. I told him to call back. Paul Bergman called. He's gonna call back in a few days when you're home and rested. Okay, you wanna know how you're doing? You're, you know what? Okay. Okay, Mom got you your aspirin. You gonna go back in the aspirin regimen? Okay, so Mom got everything for you, okay? Alright. Thanks, Dad. Take care. I'm sorry, that was an important phone call. I had to take that. I couldn't stop it. Okay. So, you have misdemeanor convictions if you have too many, and they decide what number is too many. Okay, so if they say you have too many misdemeanor convictions, you want to contest it, but they decide too many. So we have mental illness, domestic violence, felony, stuff like that. Okay, the punchline is this: owning a gun is a responsibility. No, let me say something else first. There are a lot of anti-gun people, like His High Exaltedness, the Emperor of New York, who are saying, well, too many parking tickets, you shouldn't have a gun. If you have a obsessive compulsive disorder, you shouldn't have a gun. Okay, they take the criminal record to become more than one parking ticket. They take the mental health record to become any type of mental problem. Okay, I'm gonna be front up with this. Okay, when I was a kid, I lost a couple of friends. Okay, and I did go to grievance counseling. I went to a psychologist to counsel myself because I was upset my friends were dead. I had a friend killed in a car accident, and 6 months and 10 days later, I had a friend die of cancer. They were 18 and 19 respectively. So I had a lot of depression from that. I wasn't like suicidal or anything. I wasn't abusing drugs or alcohol, but I had problems. I was very upset. I was young. I'm still young, but I was very upset my friends were dead. And I needed to have a grievance counselor talk about that. So if your parents die, if your partner, if your boyfriend or girlfriend, husband or wife dies, if your child dies, that's not a reason for them to stop you from owning a gun. Okay? The punchline is, are you dangerous? Now, substance abuse. People that abuse alcohol and drugs do stupid things. Okay? You ever watch Intervention? People on drugs, people on alcohol, and alcohol is the most dangerous drug of all. They will do anything. They're deathly afraid you're going to be stoned with a fucking gun. Okay? Here's the issue. Owning a gun is a responsibility. It is the most responsible thing you will ever do in your entire life. More responsible than owning a car. More responsible than having a child. And if you combine child and gun together, the responsibility is magnified tenfold. Okay? There are so many things that can go wrong with the gun ownership. And these asshole anti-gun lunatics will say and do anything. If they hear you drop the gun and it went off. If they hear that there was an accidental discharge at the range. If they hear about anything wrong with the gun, they automatically hold all gun owners responsible. We have a congresswoman in Long Island. Her son was injured. Her husband was killed on that train shooting years ago. The nutball had the fucking gun and he started shooting guys in the train. She blames every gun owner in America for what happened to her husband and her son. Okay? She's the first person to come out and cause a panic attack when a gun accident happens. Okay? And he who must not be named publicly said before being elected that he believed that a city has a right to ban you from owning a gun if you live in a bad neighborhood. Like the inner cities, you live in a bad neighborhood. They can say you, because you live in a bad neighborhood, you can't own a gun. Doesn't matter, you're not a criminal, you can't own a gun. That is the mentality that people take it to. So when you fuck up with your gun, you give them fuel. Okay? When a bad person gets a hold of a gun, gives them fuel. Okay? That is the issue. Now, gun dealers Okay? The gun dealer is not under any obligation to give you a gun. If you go to a gun dealer and you're drunk or on drugs or acting stupid or acting violent, the gun dealer can legally tell you, listen man, I'm not giving you a fucking gun. Because I'm afraid you're an idiot. And I am not going to give you a gun and let you walk outside with it and then get me in trouble. Because the gun dealer does not want to read the paper one day and find out blah, 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 had an accident with his gun. He bought the gun at this gun shop. You're a gun dealer. Do you want that in the fucking paper? I don't. So, if you are deemed a danger to the community, your Second Amendment right is gone. I support that. Because we the people bear arms for protection, not for hunting, not for target shooting, not for collecting. We could, but the principal reason of our amendment is for protection. So, it's kind of fucking stupid that you give someone a gun to protect themselves with, and then you give the person that they're afraid of a gun. That's right, you have the person, the citizen, with the gun. Okay. They have the gun to protect themselves from danger. You give the person they're afraid of a gun. You don't need to arm the criminal, you need to arm the law-abiding citizen. So the Second Amendment is not unlimited, the Second Amendment is not for everyone. Comprende? And I do believe that the state should have the right to deny you a gun if you are deemed dangerous. They shouldn't have a right to deny you a gun because you live in a bad neighborhood. They shouldn't have the right to deny you a gun because your friend died years ago and you're upset about it. They shouldn't have the right to deny you a gun because you got 2 parking tickets. Okay? And if someone was smoking marijuana 12 years ago and they've stayed out of trouble, I wouldn't consider that a problem. But if someone had convictions for assault, convictions for threats, I would have a problem with that. So I understand certain laws where they say, okay, this guy shouldn't have a gun. Give me your feedback on this. Feel free to respond, to reply, or comment. Thank you.